Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we cover the biggest stories in manufacturing and the implications they have on the industry moving forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Anna, Jeff, or David at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification when we go live every Thursday now that we are back on track. Anna, how are you doing this week?
Doing great. You?
I'm doing fantastic. It feels good to be doing a podcast around 2 on a Thursday rather than that hasty holiday schedule where we're trying to do twice the amount of work, fit in the podcast on some day, like recording on a Monday to go like the next Monday. We're like, is it still news then?
Yeah. Everyone needs a good routine.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you especially, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And to stick to it with like almost a militaristic regimen, right?
Right.
Those are terms that have always been used to describe your way of doing things, David.
Yeah.
Regimented, militaristic.
Militaristic.
Yeah. That's definitely you.
How you doing this week, Jeff?
Excellent, David. Thank you.
We're all ready. This week's episode is brought to you by Blumira. Manufacturing continues to be the most highly targeted sector when it comes to cybersecurity attacks. Hackers are getting smarter, and the key to combating these ongoing and evolving threats is understanding them. The good news is that the good guys are getting better at spotting bad actors and showing you how to fight back. So watch this short new video, Manufacturing's Most Concerning Cybersecurity Trends, to learn about the latest hacking trends, how supply chains and logistics services are coming under fire, for example, and how you can negate these vulnerabilities. There is a link to download and watch this video in the live chat. There's also one in the body copy. Our first story this week. I don't know if you guys can believe that this one was really popular with all the readers this week, but a bit of a hot topic over the last year.
Yeah.
The impact of tariffs in 4 charts. So it's a big topic and digestible.
Yeah.
If you're unfamiliar, President Donald Trump has relied on tariffs, perhaps more notably the threat of tariffs, as a cornerstone of his administration's trade policy. While some say that double-digit taxes on imports from almost every country have disrupted global commerce, straining budgets of consumers and businesses worldwide, they've also raised tens of billions of dollars for the U.S. Treasury. So, the AP tried to keep it simple in 4 charts. Chart number 1, effective U.S. tariff rate. The effective tariff rate is an average based on the actual imports coming into the country. Last year, based on data from the Yale Budget Lab, the effective U.S. tariff rate peaked in April north of 25%. By November, it had fallen to around 17%, but that was still 7 times greater than January's average of around 2%, and the highest it has been since 1935. Chart number 2, tariff revenue versus America's trade deficit. The idea is to use tariffs to reduce America's trade deficit. The tariffs have brought in more than $236 billion in 2025. This was through November. And the U.S. trade deficit has fallen significantly since the start of the year. The trade gap actually peaked in March at $136 billion. This was when everyone was panic buying to import foreign products ahead of tariffs. That trade gap actually narrowed to $52.8 billion in September. The year-to-date deficit was still running 17% of 2024. Chart number 3.
17% ahead of 2024.
Did I say behind?
You said of.
17%
of.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Oh, my goodness. I'm just completely autopilot right now. Chart number 3, import shifts with America's biggest trading partners. And thank you. China is now the U.S.'s 3rd biggest trading partner behind Canada and Mexico. U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports now come to 47.5%. Imports from Canada also dropped, but the value of products from Mexico, Vietnam, and Taiwan grew year to date. Finally, chart number 4, market swings. This one seemed obvious. The most volatile moments on the stock market this year arrived amid some of the most volatile moments from Trump's tariffs. These were attacks and pauses, all tied to tariffs. Anna, do you have any new takeaways from these charts, or was it just reinforcing more of what we already know?
I guess some of both. I mean, some of it I think provided a helpful recap, especially the first graphic where they talked about the effective tariff rate, because I think like one of the issues that everyone encountered here was just the fluctuating and confusing nature of the rollout. It was really hard to track like where we actually wound up. Mm-hmm. So to see that kind of laid bare in a graphic was helpful.
Yeah.
From our perspective, monitoring the manufacturing industry, I think we see it a little bit differently from more of a business perspective. The stock market stuff was, of course, relevant to everyone's 401k, but it's not necessarily like the key issue for me when I look at this. I think what is not as easy to show in a chart is sentiment, right? And to me, that's been kind of the biggest part of it is the business side, the consumer side. What are the vibes here? What kind of impacts has this been having on businesses? Because we know that we've seen some companies say, a lot of companies have gone on record here talking about their response to tariffs. Some companies have said, hey, we're expanding because of this. We're seeing some new business opportunities. Tariffs have really played out in our favor. We've seen that in the steel industry, for example. But I think we've also seen many companies also say like, hey, our input costs are crazy right now. We're having a really hard time handling this. We've seen companies completely shutter or idle plants or shutter plants and blame tariffs for the reason that they're doing that. I found a survey that was published by the Small Business Association, SBAF. This came out in November, and they noted that about 44% of small businesses surveyed reported raising prices due to tariffs, and 74% reported being worried about their business surviving over the next 12 months. And the reason I bring up this data on small businesses is the vast majority of manufacturing operations in the United States are actually small businesses. They're very small operations. So I think that's a very important component to this, is just this consideration that businesses, by and large, 74% being worried about keeping their doors open over the next 12 months. That's a massive issue. And none of that is said in this article. And I know that this is a very nuanced, not an issue with there's a lot of branches here. So you can't cover it all.
Yeah.
But I think, from my perspective here, those are some of the most important points that need to continue to be discussed as it relates to manufacturing and some of the things that we might see in 2026, because there are also a lot of analysts that are saying, hey, the businesses that have thus far tried to absorb some of these costs are not going to be able to do that forever. So we're either going to see a lot of prices going up, or we're going to see businesses shutting down in 2026 unless something changes. So to me, that's the most important kind of focal point going into the new year.
Yeah, that is a staggering figure, 74%.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you think about that, do you think that's all tariff related, or is it just have recreated this sort of market unease where nobody knows what's coming tomorrow?
Well, I mean, maybe, but the question was phrased as being within the context of like, how are tariffs affecting your business? Of course, part and parcel is just the ambiguity that's taking place here. So maybe that's all jammed together, but that's how they responded.
Okay. Jeff, the money raised is just a fraction of the federal government's total revenue, and they haven't raised enough to justify replacing federal income taxes, like was floated as a potential, pro in this situation. We haven't seen dividend checks for Americans, or at least I haven't. I've moved recently, perhaps lost in the mail.
Lost in the mail.
Yeah, but $236 billion for the U.S. Treasury. Given that everything stands, that's better than nothing.
It is, and going through a lot of these charts, I kind of want to go through these almost one at a time, just because there is some good information here, but it also it leads me to more questions.
Yeah.
And I think right now we don't have hard numbers on a lot of this stuff. It's just way, way too soon to really understand. We do know some things anecdotally, so I'll try to kind of chime in there. But looking in at this one where it talks about the revenues from tariffs, that is great, okay? More money coming in, but it's also, that's revenue, not necessarily profit. And I think it's important to distinguish between those two because we ran an article not too long ago talking about trade brokers and everything, all the hoops they're jumping through as all of these things change and fluctuate. When a cargo ship leaves China, by the time it gets to the U.S., that tariff rate could have changed 3 different times on 5 different products.
Yeah.
So for them, the extra time it's taking to actually process goods coming in, assess the proper tariffs, give back something that may have been more or less than when it was initially set up. All of those things take time, and they also eat into the efficiency of this whole operation at all of our ports. So I think there's a lot of other factors that we have to look at in terms of not just the money brought in, but also what did we have to invest to obtain those dollars, which is important. I think when you also look at this particular chart and it looks at the trade imbalance and how much it's decreased, also very misleading because when you see these huge declines in the trade imbalance, it's not accounting for all of that was done, all that was purchased ahead of time in the earlier months of this year in anticipation of all these tariffs.
Yeah.
From December through March, we set historical highs for trade imbalance 3 times in 4 months. So to see it come down is good, but it's not giving the full picture.
Yeah, it's because of panic buying.
And it's also not taking into account, this is great to see this imbalance drop, this trade imbalance decrease, but we're not seeing something that also identifies how much more domestic purchasing was done. So is it just less buying?
Yeah.
Or is there an actual shift here? And we don't know that yet. It's too soon to really tell. So, and I think there's a lot of things with all of these charts that we could point to. As far as Wall Street, I think there's way too many factors involved there to really pin tariffs as a leading cause. There was that initial panic where people saw the tariffs on Liberation Day.
Yeah, Liberation
and definitely
Day.
responded negatively to it. So there's just a lot here. I think one of the ones that's most important is when we look at, yes, China had the largest drop in terms of U.S. imports when it looks at the different countries we're dealing with. But look at Vietnam, look at Taiwan. They more than offset the difference in what we're not getting from China. So, and we ran an article too about Vietnam not too long ago and how it's adjusting to all this influx of business from China.
Oh, yeah.
So what does all of this say? It's, in my opinion, it's too soon to look at these numbers too hard and really make a lot of big judgments from them. I think anecdotally, kind of leading off of what Anna was saying, I think we've heard some people definitely benefit from these tariffs. From what I've seen, it's situations where supply chains can be adjusted to bring in domestic suppliers for low volume quantities. Okay. If we're looking at 10s and 20s, yes, it's easier to find a domestic supplier. You don't have to pay the tariffs. The costs are negligible. You can make that work. When you start scaling up and you start getting into much higher quantities and much bigger operations, those companies are feeling it and they're making adjustments not to bring things to the U.S., but other countries that they can import from that have lower tariffs. That's the general feeling. I don't think it's as bad as companies thought it was going to be, but the impacts are there. We talk about steel. It's great to see U.S. steel companies feeling more competitive and doing better business, but how is that impacting their customers? We've seen the automotive companies shop headcount. We've seen other equipment manufacturers cut back on headcount and have reductions there. So how it all plays out, we're going to need more time. But overall, there's a lot more questions than answers with a lot of this stuff.
Can we even expect time to tell at this point anymore? Because again, even looking at that second chart where it shows all the buying before March and then substantially less from April throughout the rest of the year, made sense, right? Like it was people responding to the situation. But with how it is, how the tariff situation, what happens Friday, you don't know what's happening Monday. Will we be able to get our arms around an actual picture of what happened, or will the goalposts essentially continue to move so we'll never actually know what's really going on?
I think at some point there will be a little bit more stability that we can tell what the actual impacts are. After a while, we're going to see a lot of things that right now are connected to reshoring initiatives that were probably just more corporate dynamics, things that they wanted to do. It's just part of their overall strategic plan, not necessarily because of tariffs or because of a desire to bring all those jobs or those operations to the U.S.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going to be interesting to see is, and we've talked about this before, if all of this does happen, and let's just say it is all tariff related and it's just the silver bullet on increasing U.S. manufacturing, where are we getting folks to fill these jobs? Okay, we still have a huge issue there. So there's just a number of things that we need to figure out. As far as leveling it out, yes, time, in my opinion, will tell.
Yeah. A lot of the economic development articles that we've worked on in the last year, and even the one that I worked on today on Green Power moving its U.S. corporate headquarters to New Mexico, it was this move tariff related? And the answer was, it's certainly going to help with tariffs. And it's just like, it wasn't a result. It was really because of the trade zone that they were in, because it's near the Mexican border. But, I still think that we're in that period where, like you said, all of this economic development was already on the books. And what's crazy is that we spent all this time talking about it, and as early as tomorrow, the Supreme Court could determine whether or not Trump can actually invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, also known succinctly as the IEEPA, to impose tariffs without congressional approval. So we could start paying everything back tomorrow. Eddie Gabor, who is the CEO of Key Advisors Wealth Management, told Reuters, quote, if the Supreme Court rules against the president and makes us, the government, pay back all the tariffs, that would be a major headwind for markets. This would be the equivalent of sucking liquidity out of the system. So we'll see what we wake up to tomorrow. And
that's the other economic dynamic here that plays such a big part is consumer confidence. And it wasn't mentioned in these charts, which is fine, but that's still low. People are still worried about that. Prices are still high in so many different areas, and the tariffs are definitely directly contributing to that.
Yeah.
So how do the people feel? How do they respond? What are they going to do with their checkbooks in terms of dealing with bigger prices?
It feels like, and this is only anecdotal, it feels like people are more willing to spend in times of economic uncertainty because of this belief that it'll all be all right. I feel like in previous generations, it was, doesn't look good, stop. And now it's just like, nope, we're going ahead without you. Like, Christmas is going to happen and we'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't know. That's just my feelings on it. Like, whereas it seemed like it was a little bit more reactionary, where it's just, pandemic, tariff situation, economic downturn, we're just going to keep buying, baby. I don't know.
The consumer confidence numbers would tend to disagree in terms of what we're doing. I think personally, I scrutinize things more because they do cost more.
Yeah.
If I'd buy, I don't know, an extra 2 fishing rods for ice fishing, and maybe I'm scaling that back to 1, or just getting some new line, or whatever the case is, because everything does cost more.
Yeah.
That's just me, I guess.
But you can be an unconfident consumer and still spend.
There you go.
Our next most popular story this week: poor Welds, bad lashing caused massive batteries to burst into flames, triggering multiple fires and $3.8 million in damage. On Christmas morning in 2023, cargo vessel Genius Star the 11th was on its way from Vietnam to California. The ship hit some bad weather in the North Pacific Ocean while carrying massive lithium-ion batteries, and a fire broke out in the cargo hold. The crew put out the fire, but then 3 days later, as the ship approached the nearest port in Dutch Harbor, Alaska, another fire started in a different cargo hold. No one was injured, but these fires caused $3.8 million in damage. According to a recent NTSB report, the probable cause of the 2 fires was improperly secured lashing belts. As the vessel wrestled with the weather, 41 battery energy storage systems, or BESS units, broke loose, suffered internal structural deformation, which led to thermal runaway in 3 units. These BESS units were stationary landside power supply units designed to store energy during peak electrical generation and supply power to an electrical grid during low generation periods. Powin LLC was the company that made these units at its Vietnam factory and had 192 of them aboard the Genius Star 11. Each unit Just so you know the size of these things, each unit weighed about a little more than 21,000 pounds. They were 11 feet high, 5 feet wide, and 8 feet long. During the storm, several brackets that were securing the D-rings separated, allowing these BESS units to start shifting. The separations occurred at the welds between the brackets and the deck. Coast Guard investigators also found that the hooks on the ends of the ratchet lashing belts were not compatible with the D-rings. The D-rings were too thick and just couldn't be fully seated. On some of these, only the tip of the hook was securing the lashing belt to the D-ring. Following the investigation, the NTSB determined that the accident could have been prevented with proper procedures and inspections. Jeff, does a story get any more blocking and tackling than this one?
No, I don't think it does. And we continue to see a lot of these stories revolving around safety issues with cargo ships. And I think there's a reason for this. We've talked about the time constraints that they're under. We just had a big story about cargo ships, tariffs, and everything, all the increased pressures that are coming from different geographies right now. Also found an article here. DNV is a company that does risk management specifically for the maritime industry. Oh, okay. They released a report, and they talked about between 2018 and 2024, the number of incidents on cargo ships increased by 42%.
Yikes.
Wow. The same period, the number of vessels in the fleet increased by 10%. They've also seen a huge spike in the number of ships that are over 20 years old. They've also seen a huge spike in fires. Over the last decade, 58% more fires on cargo ships. All this stuff, okay? We got more boats, they're older, and they got more stuff on them, and more complicated stuff like was on this particular vessel. How many people do you think were manning? We're a part of the crew of a boat this size. Now remember, this boat, this is the size of Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
Okay, it is enormous. It is bigger than a football field.
7.
19.
Yeah.
Still, 19 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this much cargo, with this much space, this much physical geography, and a couple of those folks do have to actually, run the boat.
Yeah.
And make sure it doesn't crash into stuff. Not enough people, especially when you're dealing with this type of cargo and these types of conditions. 19-foot seas. Look, I know I'm a land lover, but 19 feet seems unbelievable.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were just cruising around in bathtub water here.
Yeah.
There's just more to it. And I think there's just been a lack of appreciation for the demands that needs to be placed on these crew and the more crew that's needed. NTSB said they didn't pay attention to just locking down the cargo and making sure everything was safe. They probably didn't physically have enough people to do that and still meet all of the regulations in terms of how many people can be on duty at one time, how much rest you have to get, all of those things. And again, this kind of leads back into a lot of the operating costs and operating pressures that these shippers are under. We need more people, folks. We need more people on these boats making sure things are secure to ideally or hopefully avoid these types of situations.
Well, and it seems like we're loosening regulations on both ships and in rail in almost every industry that calls for more people that are capable of this oversight.
Well, the thing is, too, okay, so it was the U.S., branch, a U.S. regulator that was doing this investigation. This is a boat out of Panama.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When you start getting into maritime law, in theory, there's this overarching group of regulations that everybody's going to apply to. But guess what? It's interpreted differently everywhere. Yeah. So there's no real uniform system that everybody has to abide by.
Well, and if you look at the NTSB report and some of those photos, the first thing that jumped off the page to me was how incredibly lucky these 19 people aboard were. And that, when you're talking about thermal runaway and 3 of these more than 21,000 pound units catching fire, there were 189 more units all stacked real tight, like extremely close quarters. And that could have been a raging inferno. Luckily, if the crew didn't respond as quickly to the situation.
Yeah, I know. And that's why you're seeing some shipping companies just say, no more. We're not going to transport batteries. We're not going to transport EVs. We're not going to transport energy storage products because of this issue potentially can create these thermal runaway situations where you're on a boat and you really are short on options there of how you're going to deal with that. So I agree. Very, very lucky that it was not worse. I'm glad, Jeff, that you pinpointed some of the data around this because when I read this too, I was like, just my own brain working backwards on how many times I feel like we have covered a story where something catastrophic happens on a ship and it's marked down to user error. I mean, it's happened on this podcast alone. Half a dozen times we've covered a scenario like that.
Yeah.
And so it got me thinking, like, why is this happening so much? And I think we were kind of on the same wavelength there. But one of the things that I was thinking about is, like, I think the role here, the job, is just maybe not that appealing. I mean, the work is really hard. You're away from home. It's physical. You have the weather. It doesn't pay very well.
No, it's very isolated.
You're very isolated. And so this tracks with what is happening in the industry. They already have a turnover problem. Marine Insight reported in 2025 that while recent salary increases have helped stabilize the shipping industry workforce, there are still challenges in recruiting skilled professionals. Survey data revealed that while retention improved, many crew managers struggle to find experienced crew members capable of handling modern shipping demands. Industry experts say that the issue is not a lack of seafarers, but rather a shortage of competent ones, which, laid bare, right? I think competence aside, the other thing that they mentioned in this report is that because it's so hard to find qualified people, they've been casting a wider net, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But then you also have people who are speaking different languages. They have probably different experience levels, maybe different, as you mentioned, regulations that they're used to complying with. So maybe this grab bag of folks operating this ship, already a skeleton crew, and you can see why that is ripe for error in that situation. So again, all these challenges of just more things being shipped on these older ships, and but then also this sort of lack of experience and this diversity in the workforce that may not be helping the industry.
Well, I thought the term skilled professionals was particularly important with this story because Wisdom Marine Group, right? They're the vessel operator. They sent out their post-casualty email. And in this email to all the vessel masters, didn't go too deep, right? Basically, your welders should be welders. You should make sure of that. Cargo should be secured properly and only one piece of cargo per D-ring. That's why normally when we see these NTSB reports, or we find the one loose wire in the back of the ship that went loose and caused all the power to go out, it's this needle in a haystack, right? Where this one was oh yeah, it looks like you didn't have people who knew how to welding the brackets to the floor, and that's bad. And it looks like you had more hooks on the D-ring than you were supposed to, and that's bad. And so the biggest takeaway was that from the top down, these operational leaders need to much more heavily scrutinize everything that's happening, down to the hooks. And that was wild to me to think when you're going to be fastening cargo, that's a 21,000 pound battery to your ship. I want to make sure that bracket's on there.
Yeah.
And it was just, it also really reminded me of any time I've helped a friend move and you just have that one friend who's just you have one ratchet strap across the top and they're just should be fine.
It's good.
Should be fine. But it's really hard when you come down to it and it is just such simple things to follow, Jeff.
Well, I think part of this, though, too, and Anna touched on this in terms of the individuals that are being attracted to this type of job, because for all the things that we talked about, how difficult it is and how isolated you are and all those things, are they also supposed to understand the different packaging dynamics between energy storage devices and a crate of hammers? Those are two different things. They look exactly the same on the outside. How are they supposed to know?
Just like the sticker that says fire.
The way that they did that, even though it may not have been correct or by the book way to do it, it probably worked 10 times before.
Yeah.
And then, again, this is where it comes into having just more eyes on the prize here to make sure everything is safe.
Well, and is that even realistic, just to call on vessel masters to scrutinize everybody's work more? Is a vessel master going to check every point of a vessel the size of Lambeau Field and make sure every hook is properly on a D-ring? I think that's just like it's not going to happen. I don't know. Is that are they asking too much, Anna?
Well, you're going to have a fire on your hands potentially.
Potentially. Doug wants to cut the tension. He says, "Happy New Year."
Happy New Year, Doug.
Cut the tension.
Right? It's good to hear from you, Doug.
Hi, Doug.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to 2026. How many times have you written 2025 on some sort of form or document yet? You guys have one yet?
I have filled out like no documents.
Yeah. I was like very first one went to an appointment date 2025. And I'm like, oh, it's already happened.
Did you write a lot of checks and have to rip them up?
I think if I told you how many checks I've already written this year, it would only cause me strife. And so I'm not going to. It was a lot.
You've written a lot of checks?
I write a lot of checks.
All right.
Well, I mean, when you
I ain't throwing stones.
When you work with people in the North Woods, it's not like you can sell them something, you know? It's like, what's your Venmo? And they're just like, Crandon. I'm like, oh, okay. The money's coming. You're just like, bring me the bag of money. All right. Our most popular story this week. I'm just beating up this mic today. Just
you are
swinging
going
it all
10
over.
rounds.
Just slap it hard
like
once.
a speed
and
bag
then-
for you over there.
Yeah.
It's cool. Just how I stay so fit. Tesla loses its title as world's biggest EV maker as sales fall for second year in a row. Tesla is no longer the best-selling electric vehicle maker in the world. Was it customer revolt, expiring U.S. tax breaks, or stiff competition overseas? Maybe all the above, as Tesla said it delivered 1.64 million vehicles in 2025, down 9% from a year earlier. Chinese rival BYD sold 2.26 million vehicles last year and is now the biggest EV maker in the world. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who once dismissed BYD as a threat, well, that threat is now a reality. But hey, what does that matter? Tesla stock is still up as Musk has investors believing he can transform the company into a leader in robo-taxis, energy storage, and humanoid robots. As a matter of fact, Musk says plunging car sales really don't matter that much. Tesla's stock finished 2025 up 11%. Anna, is it time to stop thinking of Tesla as an EV maker first?
No, it is not time.
No, just like Tesla, remember when they used to make cars?
Yeah, but everyone views them so differently now. No one does. Sorry. The article called it a stunning reversal. I don't know that it was necessarily unexpected if you've been monitoring the industry and what's been taking place here. I think what's most dramatic instead is the extent to which BYD actually beat Tesla's ass. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah.
Like those two companies were trading quarters for a really long time about who was selling more. And the fact that BYD's fiscal year sales were something like 39% higher than Tesla's, that's a bad beat. That was not even close.
Yeah.
I think the article does a good job of outlining really what's been stacked against Tesla. Some of that is uniquely American. For example, GM, who's the number 2 seller in the United States behind Tesla of electric vehicles, they got blasted in Q4 also on their EVs. I mean, those went down 42% for GM. And of course, that's due to the expiring EV tax credits. I think that's become very clear that people were buying leading up to that. And then there's going to be a huge fall off. People were expecting that, right?
Yeah.
And Tesla at least had some lower cost models that they had rolled out to help kind of buffer against that decline. But it was not enough to make for a good year for the company. I am skeptical, though, that EV sales, as Elon Musk is now saying, don't matter that much anymore. Because I think, the company, of course, says that it's pivoting. He's been saying that for like about a year or two now. I just don't think that, I mean, to me, that's like saying I don't need a job because I have a great idea. Like it's not, you're not there.
I got $1 million idea.
Yeah.
I don't need to work.
No, like you're not there yet. And there's so much ground to cover yet in terms of those companies, those product lines and their readiness, market acceptance for those, let alone scale that would actually be like how you would make money in this scenario. And I think there's going to be some tough quarters ahead yet for Tesla because of that. Not to mention that the same issue of Elon Musk's polarizing personality that has really kind of cut into Tesla's sales. People just don't like how political he's gotten. That's going to follow him into other industries. Like, it's too late now to, I think, like, bisect the two things. I mean, he is identified with the Tesla brand. So those are the same people. The same people who refuse to buy a Tesla are going to be the same ones that refuse to use a Tesla Cybercab. Or like have a Tesla robot in their home. Like, people aren't going to do that. Yeah. And to me, that is a massive liability in terms of how successful these programs can be ultimately. And also, we have this history of inflating the progress on new initiatives, and like, timelines matter, especially when your core business is in decline. And I think that's really important.
Well, in this like starting and stopping when it comes to EVs, just like, oh no, EVs aren't a thing now, but they're still going to rest on energy storage as a big part of the business. Like, I don't know. I think, well, it reminded me of how you just further proof that you always need to check the source, especially when it's coming to a person that has, perhaps 1 trillion reasons to exaggerate what's going on at the company. But I mean, I think you raise a really good point. Like, Tesla is taking a hit because people don't want to support Tesla leadership in any way possible. And that continues whether or not you're trying to get them to buy an in-home robot or a power cell or anything in particular. The robo-taxi thing, I'm not certain, because, you hail an Uber, all of a sudden it shows up and it's a Tesla and you're like, it's here. You can't just be like, sorry. I guess it does tell you what it is. You, so you could just, driving. I guess, I haven't gone that deep in terms of the consumer sentiment. But so, Jeff, which segment has the most upside in your opinion? Is it robo-taxis, energy storage, humanoid robots?
Well, the energy storage, I mean, that's the market that's most ready if you're looking at it that way. But it's just interesting. Whenever you do these stories, Tesla is such an anomaly, because how many stories have we done where the stock price was down because sales were down, and there's all this pressure on the CEO, and they're cutting headcount, and they're doing all these things. This guy loses. He's basically, let's be real, there's two markets. It's the U.S. and China.
Yeah.
He lost 7 and 9% in these two markets from a sales decline. What CEO in the world, number one, survives that, but also gets a $55 billion pay package approved?
Yeah.
I mean, there's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And then there is just whatever's going on here at Tesla.
Cult of personality.
I mean, and also with the stock price, I can't believe the stock price is still up and still performing that strongly.
I read that like 3 times. I'm like, finishing up 11% or whatever.
I mean, Anna's talked about this a lot, how that valuation is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I would agree. What's interesting here is when you see all these different things going on, I think because Musk is still getting all of this backing, all of this support, he isn't paying attention to the bigger issue here. He's lost pretty significant market share in the 2 largest markets. But also, when you look at Europe and other places, EV sales were actually up. They did decline in the US, they did decline in China, but globally, EV sales are actually on the rise. Mm-hmm. So if you look at some of these other markets where he's not paying attention to them, like Europe, where VW is strong, Skoda is strong, he's maybe missing an opportunity.
Do you know how much Tesla sales dropped in Europe year over year in 2025? 28%.
Yeah.
Okay, there's your top 3 markets.
Yeah.
And still he gets all of this support. And it kind of blows me away too, because here he's talking about Tesla and this, but he's also got this little SpaceX company over here that he's trying to take public.
Yeah.
Or take public. And again, we've talked about that. And then you look at robo-taxis, which is the one that really blows me away, because he's been through all of this skepticism before in terms of can he make this work with Tesla and some of his other things. But with robo-taxis, the biggest thing there is you're not just talking about a technological adaptation or a change in a paradigm. There's a huge safety issue there.
Yeah.
I mean, you have no control when you get in that vehicle. And that is something that consumers are just not gravitating to right now, especially when they can run 500 of these no problem. The time there's one accident and something scrapes a bumper, it is all over the news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That does not help your adoption of these types of products in terms of trying to scale up. You also need some sort of capital to work from. And when you're losing sales, that doesn't help you build capital to invest in other areas. There's a lot of things here where he obviously has to put a bright smiley face on it. Mm-hmm. But I think Tesla's got some huge challenges coming up here in 26.
But they've always had huge challenges. And he actually recently hedged on the safety bit of it, and I'll get into that in a second. But like, Anna, do you think generally people are more excited to see him become the first trillionaire? Like, is that what's propping up? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me as to how, like, bad news, stock goes up. Worse news, stock goes up. Kind of bad news, stock goes down a minute, and then it goes back up. Like, what would it take for, like, I guess, a market correction or for them to actually take a significant hit in the stock price?
Well, there was a correction this past year. It just corrected
uncorrected?
itself. Yeah. I don't know. It's confusing to me as well. I don't think that people want to see the world's first trillionaire.
It's just global support for the first trillionaire.
I don't know exactly what is just
or US trillion.
For some people and some investors, he's very dynamic presence there, and there are people that trust him implicitly to make money for them.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see like how the next year or two go, because I do feel like they're kind of in this no man's land, trying to figure out the next step and how that's going to play out, and it's not going to be profitable for a long time. And so, maybe people jump ship in 26, 27, but we'll have to see.
Well, so in this climate in which people are feeling increasingly upset and out of control and angry, I think that one easy way for people to continue to protest is with their wallets and not to buy a Tesla anything.
Just to play devil's advocate, though, when he's talking about lowering the prices on these vehicles, and if you want an electric vehicle and you're looking at a $20,000 smaller price tag, that is tough to bypass as well, which is going to help not buoy the profitability, but as long as the sales numbers are solid, that seems to be what's supporting the stock price. People aren't looking at how profitable the company is. They're looking at how much is being sold and how much confidence, obviously, that gives or credence gives to Elon Musk.
So part of that confidence is the fact that he'll be able to be the first one to market with a lower cost alternative.
Right now, I mean, that's his plan. That's what he's talked about, continuing to lower the price.
So there was a tweet, and it either came out today or yesterday. Musk said that Tesla needs to accumulate roughly 10 billion miles of training data to achieve, quote, safe, unsupervised self-driving. Now, the reason I bring this up is because Tesla so far has accumulated about 7 billion miles of data. So we're still 3 billion miles away from full self-driving. And I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but it's been teased a bit, as to whether or not it's a reality already or coming. I mean, in this tweet, Musk said, quote, reality has a super long tail of complexity. You think? And according to Electric, this was a report that I found at Electric, Musk said robotaxis would soon be operating in Austin, Texas, but also he needs 3 billion more miles of data. It's just, again, like I said, further proof that you need to check that source, Jeff.
No, but this is what you expect from Musk in terms of deflection. He's been extremely good at it, and it's paying off for him. So there's a common sense element that rings true in your head that says, well, this isn't ready yet. There's no way, just because he says it is, or just because he can trot out, the skeleton of a robot and talk about it replacing human workers, it doesn't mean that's the case.
I mean, you bring up a really good point. Like any other CEO puts a guy in a costume on stage and starts dancing to be the next robot, and like that person is ridiculed, maybe doesn't work again. And this, it's genius. Look at his marketing genius. I don't know. I guess I remain surprised how often he can be like, oh, yeah, robo-taxis, Anna? We're going to have those in Austin like 3 weeks from now. And then when somebody calls him on, he's just like, oh, sooner-ish. Just we're only 3 billion miles away. All right. Well, before we jump into, in case you missed it, the stories that weren't as popular on our websites but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward, we have another word from our sponsor, Blumira. This week's episode is brought to you by Blumira. Manufacturing continues to be the most highly targeted sector when it comes to cybersecurity attacks. Hackers are getting smarter, and the key to combating these ongoing and evolving threats is understanding them. The good news is that the good guys are getting better at spotting the bad guys and showing you how to fight back. So watch this short new video, Manufacturing's Most Concerning Cybersecurity Trends, to learn about the latest hacking trends, like how supply chains and logistics services are coming under fire, and what you can do to negate these vulnerabilities. All right, in case you missed it, story's not as popular, but could make a big impact on the manufacturing industry as we go forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week?
I selected a story about Joby Aviation, which is an air taxi company we've covered before in the past. So they just announced that they are buying their second Ohio factory to expand electric air taxi production. And I know what you're thinking, but electric air taxis are not FAA approved. That's correct. So here's what happened. So they said that they're planning to acquire a 700,000 square foot plant in Dayton, Ohio. The new facility will support the company's plans to double production to 4 aircraft per month in 2027, while also providing space for future growth. The factory complements Joby's existing production facilities in California and Ohio, both of which they announced earlier. Well, I was going to say this year, 2025.
Happens to us all.
In July of 25, Joby announced the completion of an expanded manufacturing facility in Marina. That's the California one. And then in October, they confirmed the start of propeller blade production in Ohio. So this is their third plant. So tracking Joby is interesting, right? The air taxi industry has seen a ton of development. There's quite a few players at this point in time. There's been some cool stuff happening with eVTOLs and autonomy, and everybody loves to watch it. I'm not sure I'm there on this yet. If you look at Joby, they already trade at nearly 75 times their projected sales in 2027. That's what their market cap is.
Yeah.
They do not, as I mentioned, have FAA approval at this point. I know that they have plans to start ramping up production because they're working towards that. They've been working towards that since 2022, but there's still, I think, a lot to play out yet with air traffic control in terms of this actually being a thing that is let loose, right?
Yeah.
So even if they do get production underway and they're able to produce these things, they have a huge backlog of orders. If they get their approval, I still personally think that there's going to be a lot of time spent still proving the safety and the reliability of these devices before broad buy-in is going to take place. And I say that because there's still a vast majority of people out there who say that they would refuse to get into an autonomous vehicle. Are you going to get into an autonomous plane then? I just don't see that happening like they're going to hit the market and everyone's ready to go.
Yeah.
So I just feel like there's many years ahead for this company of not making money. And yet it's aviation, so it's a cash burn to just exist, right?
Yeah.
So will they make it? That's my question to you two. I like seeing this, the continued investment here. It's exciting, and the backlog of orders is exciting.
Yeah.
But then I'm just is this really gonna work? It just seems so far away.
What's the until they receive FAA certification, is the idea just ship them all to Saudi Arabia?
They do have Dubai rollout test that they're working towards right now.
Right, yeah. And I think, the one thing that's exciting to me about Joby is they were one of the companies that seemed to really escape that mysterious flying car. I feel like when they first came out, everyone was kind of labeling them as a flying car company. They're like, no, hey, we'll take the shine on that, but we're actually an air taxi company. I do think that, and it's probably because you guys have talked me into what the scale of this actual market might look like. I tend to be a little bit more optimistic in what it could be. Joby continues to surprise me with their developments. I'm encouraged by it because I do like the idea of being able to transform urban air mobility and make things a little bit less congested. It's not going to do that. But we're talking about a failing infrastructure system. How many decades behind the ball is air traffic control? There's already a shortage of people that work in air traffic control. I do think there are the deck may be stacked against them, but a lot of challenges. But I'm encouraged by it. It's something that I would like to see come to fruition is greater urban air mobility in my lifetime. So
all right,
I'm encouraged by it.
Jeff, now will you throw a wet blanket on it?
Yeah.
100%. So when you look at who's backing Joby, because it blows me away that they could afford to do this. They've got a headcount of over 2,000 people working at this place.
Oh, really?
But when you look at who's backing them, they've got Toyota and then the who's who, basically, of private equity groups behind them. Now, it's almost like there's some sort of FOMO going on here because it's like, well, BlackRock is in, so, Capricorn has to get in there too. It's like everybody wants a piece of this just in case it works. Now, at some point, I think they're giving Joby a long leash here because they do have these back orders and there's a lot of interest from folks. In terms of scaling it up, if it does scale, it is not going to be in the consumer market. This is a defense product. Yeah. That's where all these private equity companies are coming into. That's why they're investing in this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, we can try to keep this going, but I think there's a lot of people who are insulated. They can put a lot of money into this. If it doesn't work out, okay, we'll have something, at least some IP we can sell off or make something on. Yeah. I don't know that there's this grand illusion of just a bunch of like autonomous mini planes flying through the air, getting people to and from Wall Street or to the airport on time or anything grander than that. I think it's just an interesting concept that people are banking on taking someplace else.
Yeah.
Do you think that they call it air taxi just for like the sexy factor to like get attention and
calling it like autonomous bomb dropper? Yeah.
Well, but I also think air taxi is more realistic than flying car. But yes, a little bit more customer facing than autonomous bomb dropper.
Yeah. That's where it's going.
Yeah. But I mean, and again, like when we see facts and figures, they're like doubling capacity, I mean, it's easy to double when capacity is one, But I mean, we're still talking like three factories
scale.
Now. Yeah. Like from where, because I can't remember when they started, but we've been able to track pretty much the entire life of Joby. And I've got to say, they've continued to surprise me. So I was glad you picked this one. And I was very surprised because I was just like, hold on a second. Anna's going.
She is not coming around. Don't let that.
I thought so. She was
I'm still a no.
She was like, you know what? I feel good about it now.
They have proven themselves to me.
Yeah, this was the day I turned the corner on air taxis, working title. Jeff, what's your in case you missed it this week?
So I picked a story that the headline maybe makes you laugh a little bit, but when you dive into it, there's kind of headlines a much bigger issue. So this one came out actually between Christmas and New Year's, but it was oyster, crab, and $400,000 worth of lobster meat was stolen up in New England. So this equates to 40,000 oysters, lobster again worth almost $500,000, and a bunch of crab meat were all stolen in separate incidents within a week of each other in New England. Now, we've covered some of this stuff before. We've talked about tequila. We've talked about some other products that were basically hijacked. And I think what really caught my eye on this one was when they talked to Dylan Rexing. He's the CEO of the Rexing companies. Basically, he kind of goes through the process and what happened. He said, the carrier we hired impersonated a real carrier. They spoofed the email address. They changed the name on the side of the truck, fake driver's license. It was a pretty sophisticated crime in his opinion. But what got me is that when they talk about this type of theft, he said it happens every day, multiple times a day.
Oh, my God.
There's also another quote in this article where the guy talks about, and I want to get his name here, Chris Burrows. He's the president and CEO of Transportation Intermediaries Association. It's a trade group for the freight brokerage industry. He says, whether you eat seafood or not, they're stealing other items. He's obviously talking about just these thieves that are out there. They're stealing items to build cars. They're stealing items to go into computers. Ultimately, the costs get thrown to the consumer. So basically, they're getting bolder and bolder. And a lot of this stems from some of the cybersecurity things we talk about in terms of spoofing emails or using phishing emails, all of those things to get more information. So when these phony drivers show up, they look as legit as they possibly can. Here we're talking about seafood, okay, that was stolen, delivered probably to restaurants who also falsely didn't realize they were buying it from crooks when they did. But when you start talking about some of these other things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that could also be impacted, we're already dealing with price issues. This is just going to do more of that. And I think what's tough here is we always talk about all the technology that is out there in terms of traceability and being able to see where things are and stay on top of your supply chain. Well, now we've got other things to think about there too in terms of just crooks basically using electronic media and other resources to do what I wouldn't describe as overly complicated measures, pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
But when you put it all together, it is a highly organized operation here. This isn't Tony Soprano knocking off a VCR truck on the interstate.
Yeah.
This is a lot more to it.
No, this is, I mean, the phishing schemes that you've been talking about for years, like, and while it seemingly very not complicated, like almost easier than just knocking a truck off, because it's just like, we're just going to gain access. We're going to change the information on the logistics company, and we're just going to come and pick it up. We're going to steal it from your front door. Like, that is wild.
And you're going to pay us for it.
And you're going to pay us for it. Like, and I mean, we're talking about like, I mean, these are people that are servicing, like it said, Costco stores. I mean, it's not like these were all shipments headed to like mom and pop operations, you know, these significant amounts of cargo. Anna, when you look at this, now I know that this wasn't going to ruin your holiday with a lack of oysters and crab and lobster meat.
True.
But I mean, that is, to me, when this article came out, it was New Year's Eve, right? And I mean, that the New Year's holiday seems to be one, to me, that, you know, people splurge a little bit more. They'll go for that lobster or crab dinner. And just to see that the final takeaway of this article was that, like, at the end of the day, someone's going to pay for it, and it's going to be the consumer. That was the one that was just like, man, what an either bummer of a way to like wrap up your 25 or start your 26.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, what's crazy too to me, so we talked in the past about some of the top stolen items in the food industry, and like cheese was one of them, right? Seafood, I feel like, is one of the shortest shelf life products that you could possibly steal. So the clock is ticking as soon as they have this truck, which leads me to believe that they have also a very sophisticated distribution chain for these products. Which also speaks to the level of sophistication that you're getting here, because they have a place to go with them, like immediately.
Yeah.
It's not like they can sit on this product and wait it out.
Yeah. Wait for the smoke to clear.
Lay low for a while and then just sort of casually, you know.
Side of the road.
Yeah, I mean, this is ready to go somewhere. Somebody is waiting for this product.
Yeah.
Which is also alarming as well to consider what that end of it looks like.
Oh, yeah. It is a little bit more sophisticated than that like Milwaukee tool heist, you know, where he's just like, no, I'm going to ship crates of it to my apartment and then we'll figure it out afterwards. But I mean, you're right. I think the more that we dig into this, I mean, Jeff, do you feel like we're just scratching the surface of the sophistication of these criminal enterprises that already exist?
I think that we know the tactics. Okay. Yeah. That's not what's new. And really they haven't changed that much. I think it's the sophistication level is about the same, but the level of organization would blow your mind in terms of the fact that they're not just, you know, grabbing email addresses off of LinkedIn and things like that. These are enterprises that have recruiting. They have HR. They have accounting. They have budgets that they need to hit. All of those types of things. That's what blows you away. But what also, I think, to put a better spin on this is there's also a lot more tools out there. Yeah. And I know that's an easy out. Say, well, just buy some more security tools. That's not an easy thing to do. But understanding the situation and then applying the technology we have in the correct way is what companies and manufacturers really need to get a hold of and place a bigger priority on. It's not just about buying stuff, buying software, buying tools. No, it's about understanding the problem better and then adjusting to make sure you're getting the right solution to plug in.
Well, and you can also have all the best practices in place and still make a mistake. Like, we are hit with spam emails and spam texts and spam calls multiple times a day. And it's like almost a running joke where when somebody like in the office will just be like, ooh, just clicked a bad link, everything I have might be gone. And it's like, it's just, it's so widespread that it's a joke. You know, just like,
well, it can't be.
I know, you know what I mean, though. It's just like
that's what they're counting on.
I know it is wild.
You're part of the problem, David.
It wasn't me.
Also, I apologize for the dated reference. I'm rewatching The Sopranos, and I just hit that one where Tony and Christopher knocked off that truck. So
I think it's timeless. You can always talk about The Sopranos.
All right,
just say truck. Not like a VHS truck. People are just like, so what?
I think they're actually Blu-ray players. I think I said VCRs. Yeah.
Okay. Doug says, in regards to the checks, at least a 5 can be made into a 6 easily. I know, but you know what? Like, I had that sharp edge on it, so then I tried to like make it into a 6, and then it wound up being that like super bold 6, and then I thought that looked like madness, so I crossed it out to the initial.
So you way overthought this.
Can you believe it?
No.
No way.
Because even if you left the 5 on there, they could still cache it.
Yeah. Well, it was a medical forum, so I'm just like, I want them to know this is the most recent information. All right. My, in case you missed it this week, was an unexpected update to a story that we've talked about previously. So Kawasaki's robot horse gallops toward production. Now, this one caught me by surprise because the Corleo is a hydrogen-powered off-road vehicle resembling a robot horse, and it's made by Kawasaki Heavy Industries. When the company unveiled the concept last year, it targeted 2050 for production. Now, Kawasaki says it will be ready for on-site mobility applications by 2030 and reach commercialization by 2035. I wanted to bring this up because when I first started talking about these humanoid robot stories, everyone's like, you're crazy, stop it. You're scaring me.
This is a horsenoid, though.
No, Anna. This is an equinoid. An equinoid.
It's not a horsenoid.
It's not a horsenoid. I'm going to coin it right now. We're calling these equinoids from here on out. Not mech horses, even though, but I mean, like, this one is wild to me. So Kawasaki wants to, quote, realize a society where everyone can safely and securely enjoy mountainous areas while achieving harmony with nature. Can you achieve harmony with nature with like a mech horse, Jeff, or like un caballo mecánico?
I don't need to go to the mountains to find this, what they call harmony with nature.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to climb all different types of terrain to realize that. So I think their desire to commercialize this by 2035 will need to have scale in mind.
Yeah.
I think there's a limited number of consumers interested in this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many people tour like mountainous terrain on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of the industries that are going to be disrupted, like the rent-a-burro markets out there. Like they're going to take a huge hit here.
Segway tours, look out.
Well, that's so okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned segways because I think that's interesting.
Cheap.
Part of the reason I chose this was so a little bit about the design. Corleo has a carbon metal body. It's has a 150cc hydrogen engine that powers its 4 independent legs, and a head-like structure that houses a heads-up display with information including speed, energy levels, and maps. I think that when it's running out of fuel, it just shows like a sad, tired horse, so that way you know to get back.
And then it just leaves you at the top of a mountain.
Yeah, you're still stranded. You just put up that like external solar array and wait for days for it to recharge. But the steering isn't traditional. It's a little tricky. Corleo is driven by the rider shifting their weight forwards and backwards, side to side, while the vehicle's hooves provide grip and stability. So it is like a Segway. You steer it like a Segway. It was just, I think that this is I thought that this was a fun idea to gain attention at trade shows and gain a little spotlight for Kawasaki. And then all of a sudden it became a reality. And then they bump up production by 20 years. And I'm like, what are we doing?
Who is going to buy this?
Yes. Like, I mean, I don't know. How fast does it go? How safe is it? Is this a more suitable alternative for me to commute to the office than an e-bike? Like, I'll park it right next to producer Eric's bike. You know, just like as soon as it comes out in 20 years, you're gonna be like,
I can't wait for you to try to bring in a robotic horse into the office.
How loud?
Just to see how some of the individuals who also share this office would feel about that.
Oh, yeah.
How fast can it gallop?
It doesn't say how fast it can gallop, but also there's no way this thing is quiet, right? Like, I mean,
it can't be that fast either.
No, because it'll throw you off. Or it'll tip its gigantic metal body onto you and crush half your body.
I mean, we're being kind of rough on it here, but there are applications. I get that.
Yeah.
But when you talk about this being for tourists to see the mountains, that's kind of a weird
It is.
parallel there. I don't know about that one.
True. I mean, there are applications, and it's because if I wanted to tie it to the comparison of when humanoid robots came out, and it was just like almost sometimes this immediate, no chance, no reason, there's a better way to do it. But sometimes these things catch on, and like Doug says, he wants to see Optimus ride in this thing, and I completely agree. This is 100% out of Westworld, but I want to, a lot of these times, like with the, I'm not going to be the first one on the air taxi. I might be the first one on the Equinoid.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
15.5 miles per hour on flat terrain.
Okay.
That seems terrifying.
You're moving.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's okay. I can make it to, my commute's not that bad. Can you? Okay. I know that there's
Just because you have to like.
oh, it's not easy. I mean, there's no way it's smooth. You know, like
I mean, you
what's
could develop
saddle?
some core strength that way, I guess. But I don't know, other than that.
Yeah, what do they call it? Like saddle something or whatever when you're kind of like sore from riding for a while. Like, do I get to the office and I'm just like, oh, don't worry, I can't sit for days. But it's I don't know. It's intriguing. It's intriguing. Let's say that. And, you know, it's this society is driven by the dreamers and.
Good luck, Kawasaki. We're rooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Its speed goes way down in sand, just so you know.
Oh, good to know. Well, hey, Jeff, you always talk about how hydrogen makes the most sense, like for fleet applications. And so instead of, it'll be the new AGV instead.
What?
You know,
you're gonna run on hydrogen? Is that what you're saying?
What's it? Oh yeah, it's a hydrogen engine.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why initially it's going to come out as like fleet mobility. And so I was just picturing these vast manufacturing like chemical plants where it's just like, hey, I got to hit to the other side and just go like jump on this horse, just like I'll see ya. Like, but I don't know. Hey, it's going to be a wild future, guys. All right. Well, before we get out of here this week, let's do our final thoughts. And what is your final thought?
I didn't get to this, I guess, but so this weekend, my husband's out of town. He's on a golf trip with his best friend, and so I was like going to prove to the kids once and for all that I am the number one fun parent, which they already were like, okay, yeah, nice try, Mom. So I am taking them to the SpongeBob movie on Sunday, even though I hate SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Hate SpongeBob.
Come on. It's
Not a fan either.
Oh,
What?
this is
Hate
the
SpongeBob.
worst.
Is it too funny for you?
Just too gross, and I just would rather not.
There's not as much of the my biggest criticism of the new SpongeBob movie, because we definitely saw it, was that it was tired. Like I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep like 3 times when we saw it. But because I do find like typical, I've liked other SpongeBob movies and the show, but this one, the plot seems like pretty ham-fisted, where they're just like, no, SpongeBob and Jack Black, that should be funny, right? And then they just did that. And I mean, there's a lot of funny in it. Don't get me wrong.
You're not selling it.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
I'm not like. You know, it was good, not great.
I already bought the tickets. There's nothing I can do.
Resolved herself to her fate.
Well, that's you know, I guess that's what you get for being such a planner.
I guess so.
See, when you wait till the last minute.
Are you going Saturday?
Sunday.
Well, Saturday will be fun. It's not that bad. Man, but the movie theater pulled some stuff on us where we went there, and during the holiday season, they suspend the Discount Tuesday pricing. Straight trash. And then, if you can believe it, they were out of water cups for the week as well. And so they told me that I couldn't have one, even though I could see the stack of them behind her. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm not authorized to give you a water cup. So instead of getting cups for 3 kids and 2 adults, I bought like $40 in bottled water.
You don't just smuggle those in?
That's an entirely different story.
Oh.
I had very grand plans as to how we would execute this movie as a family. And let's just say that there were ideological differences as to what we were teaching our children. And Doug says, bring a pillow. Oh, if you actually have an airline pillow, you know, you recline.
God, you guys. This is going to be terrible.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. My final thought this week is that just, you know, I really didn't have one. And so, no, I was just going to say like,
David Manty speechless?
Never in my life did I think I'd see the day.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, that's a good one, producer Eric. Like, after, you know, just a few years of participating in recreational dodgeball, we were able to bring home another championship this week, and it was actually a lot of fun. And I'm surprised I was able to stand for this long because there's some soreness. But no, the point that I kind of just wanted to bring to final thought was that, if you see something wrong happening in the world, that it's okay to say that you think it's wrong. And not getting too crazy, I think that this world continues to move because people stand up when they see something that they don't agree with, and they try and take a stand. So I encourage everybody to do that if and when that happens to them. Jeff, your final thought this week.
Well, I'm going to take a stand against hornets this weekend.
Oh, you have some hornets?
Have you ever seen a hornet's nest, like a big one? Like the inside of it?
Oh, I mean,
it
like
is,
a big paper, yeah.
It is one of the most incredible feats of engineering that you'll ever see. So we have this huge hornet's nest. It's up in like the up by the roof where meets the house. So it's up there a ways. And I was waiting until I know everything is dead up there, because where are you going to go if they start buzzing around? But that's the goal this weekend, is to try to get this huge hornet's nest finally removed from the side of the house.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I've got a neighbor who is a former line worker. Oh. And I think he kind of gets into this. He's got the long ladder, and he puts on the lineman's belt and gets up there. Oh, so hopefully, I don't know if I'm going to make him do it or not, because it's kind of crappy outside.
Yeah.
But I'm actually oddly geeked out about looking at this hornet's nest once I get it off there. Because the inside of it, what these insects do, is incredible.
Of all the viral videos that I've wanted to try and replicate, do you remember the one where they melted the aluminum and then poured it into the ground hornet's nest, and then they dug it out and basically came out with this massive aluminum sculpture that showed every pathway? It was incredible. And I'm just so I basically need to endanger myself by finding this underground colony of hornets, then safely melt down all this aluminum, and I should have myself a nice coffee table piece.
Well, it's crazy how well attached they always are, too.
Yeah.
They are stuck on there, so it's going to be a bit of a chore, but hopefully sans hornets when I take this thing down.
Yeah, so. Good luck with that.
I'm sure it'll be another story for next week.
Adequately covered in poison.
I'm not worried about that. That should be fine.
Okay. All right, well, hey, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can always leave the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use, and we would really appreciate even a thumbs up on YouTube. If you want to reach any of us via email, you can get us at Anna, Jeff, or David at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first, or subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can join us whenever we go live on Thursday. All right, for Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we'll all see you next week.